Rodtang is a walking stick of dynamite. And punching him in the face only seems to make him stronger. This indestructible Iron Man has had over 300 fights. For his opponents, the day they faced Rodtang was the worst day of their lives. For him, it was Tuesday. But Rodtang's destructive prowess didn't happen overnight. Like many Thai athletes, he began training at a young age, helping to support his family. He had soon outgrown the confines of his small village, moving to a top gym in Bangkok with serious world championship aspirations. He did not disappoint. The Iron Man accumulated over 250 wins, and multiple fights of the year at Thailand's most prestigious stadium, all by the age of 22. He became known for pairing violent domination with high-octane, crowd-pleasing entertainment. As of this video, Rodtang sits atop ONE FC's flyweight Muay Thai throne and holds a 14-fight win streak, the longest in the organization's history. His only loss under the ONE banner came in a special rules MMA bout to fellow great Demetrius Johnson. A pressure fighter in the purest sense of the word, Rodtang is like a walking tornado made of fists, his blows raining down in a hailstorm of unrestrained brutality. However, there is a method to his madness. When it comes to ring IQ, Rodtang is genius level. A very simple but impressive example is his most recent fight against Edgar Tabares. Tabares was spamming spinning elbows, and Rodtang soon caught on. He was savvy enough to calmly block the attack mid-combination and punish Tabares for it with a knockout. But Rodtang's more clever, devious, and dangerous than this basic example portrays, because Rodtang punishes openings in his opponent's offense and defense alike, leaving them with little room to breathe. Even as they shrink and shell up, the Iron Man crushes through with expert accuracy and mind-altering impact. Rodtang's ability to punish an opponent's defense was highlighted against the tough-as-nails British Muay Thai champion Jacob Smith. Rodtang picked up on Smith's over-reliance on leverage blocks, also sometimes called long or straight blocks. Smith was using his outstretched arm as a frame to maintain distance and as a shield when he exited from exchanges. Picking up on this, Rodtang angled around it with corkscrew right hands and fierce elbows over the top. Smith's usually effective leverage block was now nothing more than a guiding line straight to his chin.
Get that station going.
Ooh, nice. Right hand. Well, that's that bad company for you right there. He's going for it, but he's got to be careful. He's putting himself in some danger. Going straight up the middle. Oh, the elbows.
And if those setups weren't enough, Rodtang took Smith's block as an invitation to trap his rear hand, dragging the Brit into damaging elbows, demanding retribution from Smith for daring to try to defend himself. With his opponent's main line of defense shattered, Rodtang proceeded to batter him with stiff combinations, threatening to wear out the padding on his 4-ounce gloves.
Manipulation, right? Like he's able to find the hole up the middle.
Rodtang Jitwagnar!
And Rodtang doesn't need something obvious like a block to hone his offense. Something as subtle as a stance switch can trigger the Iron Man's targeting system. Against the former international and Muay Thai champion Taeger Kolalov, Rodtang noticed a tendency to switch stances as he exited exchanges. Cutting off his adversary, the Iron Man started chopping away with a well-timed kick to his rear leg. Both competitors agreed to fight on a week's notice, so this likely wasn't game planning. Rodtang learned on the job. Rodtang had shut the door on his escape hatch, immobilizing him so he had nowhere to go, forcing him to stand, fight, and absorb the incoming barrage.
Rodtang marching forward, outside leg kicks from both men. Rodtang's left side will turn up the aggressor meter. There's the hooks.
That Rodtang cuts the corner off and he forces Kalilov to circle to his power side.
And that means Kalilov caught him. Good jab from Kalilov.
While this bout was a split decision on paper, the fight speaks for itself. It was another systematic breakdown by Rodtang. And with Rodtang, trying to shell up yields even more devastating results. Standing opposite the former WBC Muay Thai featherweight world champion, Hakeem Hametch, Rodtang noticed the Frenchman's high, inactive guard every time they came into close range. So Rodtang started splitting it with a battering ram lead elbow. And since his opponent was so underreactive, Rodtang took the invitation to grapple, guiding his opponent into mean-spirited throws and anatomy-altering trauma. Instead of the opponent's guard acting like a shield, Rodtang sees a slatted gate, with gaps large enough to reach his opponent with sharp elbows and blistering leather.
Crossing over to the jaw from Rodtang. Phenomenal Muay Thai countries. Hakeem trying to get inside the guard, taken through the forearms of Rodtang Kwandon and dumped into the canvas from Hakeem Hametch.
Interesting strategy right now coming from Rodtang.
And just like the opponents before him, Hametch ran out of options against Rodtang. He faced the consequences of his inability to defend himself.
Though needed midsection folds him in half. A little slow though now from the Frenchman, glancing left from Rodtang, step up elbow from the Thai, crossing elbow, went all out on that one.
Until the last bell finally let him off the hook. With examples like these, it's easy to see why Rodtang's opponents so often act increasingly hopeless and helpless as the seconds tick by. In so many Rodtang fights, his opponents are reduced to timidity, and more than once the referee has had to intervene and remind them to actually fight. In other words, Rodtang's intense pressure makes them change their priorities. Instead of seeking the glory of victory, they return to the very roots of all martial arts training: survival. Fighting Rodtang is like starring in a zombie movie. You cannot stop the inevitable, encroaching doom that is sure to follow. The more strikes you throw against Rodtang, the more damage you take. The more he just keeps coming forward.
Oh, and then a couple of hooks from
He's standing his ground, right? He's not really
Rodtang,
right
the
there.
hook.
Again.
Rodtang with a big elbow.
And while that seems scary enough, Rodtang's dogged pressure isn't the entire story. Unlike most of his contemporaries, Rodtang can get away with traditionally reckless attacks, like his long-range shuffle hook, which he uses often. And while his vibranium chin definitely absorbs some of the risk, it's the Iron Man's underrated defensive mastery that keeps him safe during his bursts of Rod Rage. Without a deep understanding of defense, these risky attacks leave too many vulnerabilities. And with Rodtang, his defensive flourishes are easy to miss. Onlookers and opponents alike are swept up in his jaw-dropping offensive whirlwinds, losing out on the finer details of a game that's just as reliant on defensive responsibility as it is violent explosiveness. Rodtang is dancing on a razor's edge of risk and reward here. And he gets away with it by employing multiple lines of defense. First, he doubles or triples up on his blocks. Sometimes this will be a 2-beat double parry, or a parry supplementing a block. If it's a kick, he might add in a check at the same time. His second line of defense is expert tier head movement. If that's not enough, he could also move completely out of range. Another key element is that instead of applying catch-all defenses like a basic high guard, Rodtang deals with each specific strike his opponent throws, over-defending on most of them. By over-protecting himself on each individual shot, Rodtang is able to march through his opponent's attacks to deliver individualized counters. If combat really is art, then Rodtang paints the canvas with a multitude of brushes and paints, each fitted for producing a specific result, while many competitors only bring a single brush. Because of this, Rodtang has the ability to make professional fighters miss so bad that they fall right on their face. Combined with excellent balance and a strong base, it could also seem like they're running right into a wall. So we've covered how Rodtang stays safe while exploiting his opponent's defense. Now, let's look at how he exploits their offense. Teeps, or front kicks, are one of the main tools to keep distance, and could potentially be kryptonite to someone like Rodtang. So, it's important that he not only defends them, he punishes them. He does this with a vice grip teep catch that he chains into devastating counters. Once his opponent's leg is stuck, it's stuck, and Rodtang will use the hold to push, pull, or turn his opponent, off-balancing them for whatever comes next, or throwing them to the canvas. And if Rodtang catches your kick, being tossed on your butt is like winning the jackpot, because most are not so lucky. The Iron Man's punishment of choice is to punch with his free hand, pounding opponents even when he releases their leg. Gut-wrenching body shots are his weapon of choice, usually after he pulls opponents in. These punches are crushing. So much so that they made a world-class fighter like Jonathan Haggerty do a 540 on the canvas. But why decide between the two when you could punch and sweep at the same time? It makes perfect sense that someone who constantly attacks like Rodtang will need to learn to defend while attacking. Otherwise, they might have to stop, and Rodtang does not want to stop attacking. It's like his favorite thing. So Rodtang is more like an accidental counterpuncher, or rather, a counterpuncher out of necessity. He's throwing strikes, and sometimes an opponent happens to be throwing something at the same time or a little before, so he has to avoid it. It takes insane reflexes to multitask like this, responding to a specific attack in the correct way while mid-strike. But Rodtang pulls it off. Obviously he can't use the limb he's striking with, so he'll adjust his guard on the opposite side to block or parry at the same time, like using a sword and a shield. But more often than not, his answer to incoming fire is head movement. While Rodtang often makes these defensive maneuvers on the fly, he does have his favorites. A more common one is to slip to the outside to avoid jabs or hooks, delivering his own at the same time. But he'll also answer these same shots with lead leg body kicks or rear leg kicks. Notice how even then, Rodtang keeps his head off the center line, ducking, rolling, and shoulder blocking to ward off any punches. He also likes to answer pretty much any rear side attacks with teeps, capitalizing on his opponents needing to turn to square up their hips.
Off balance is that Sergio is in mid-attack. As he's getting these push kicks down, it's thrown off his balance completely.
The same is true for spinning attacks. It's a bad idea to show Rodtang your back. His timing is impeccable. And the really beautiful thing is that all of these attacks chain into each other. Rodtang brings stellar offense, expertly counters his opponent's defense, quells their offense, and then begins the cycle again. And this allows Rodtang to move forward with constant aggression. They say that the best defense is a great offense, but this is too basic a premise for Rodtang. He isn't a mindless marauder. Quite the contrary. The Iron Man possesses expert-level risk management, and you could just tell he enjoys every moment of it. I know I'll look forward to enjoying his fights for years to come. Rodtang is set to face fellow Muay Thai superstar and one kickboxing champion Superlek September 22nd. The Iron Man's Muay Thai belt will be on the line, and I've left a link to the info below. If you want to up your own game, you can check out my books on defense, power, and footwork, linked below. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.